Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Coffee Run Live, the early edition. I know some of you will be catching up on the replay. Welcome to the replay if you're listening to the replay, and even though you're live, you're getting this. And for those of you who are coming in now, good morning. We're all doing probably school runs and things like that. I was lucky enough for my husband to be doing that this morning. So today we are talking all about positioning, and I thought that this would be a kind of fun thing to talk about today, given that so many of you I know need and want to stand out from the crowd, want to do things a bit differently, want to feel like you're doing all of the amazing things with all of the amazing people. And so good morning, Rebecca. Yes, it's early. I've got a hairdresser's appointment. Look, I can get my hair to do weird things here and strange things here, and nothing is even. It's ridiculous. Good morning, Robin. Oh, good afternoon to you. It's afternoon are you still in Utah, USA. So positioning. Well, I thought that I would talk this morning, first of all, about why positioning is important in case you missed the memo. The reason that we want to position yourselves as an expert in what it is that you do is because it helps you to build confidence. It helps you to be seen as someone who can be, listened to and learned from and heard from and all that kind of stuff. But it really helps you to stand out from the crowd, and it also helps you to be, seen by other people as someone who really knows their stuff. Now, you and I know that you know your stuff, right? But how many of you, looking at you, have not been putting your stuff out there? Good morning, Leanne from SA. Now, is that South Australia or is that South Africa? I just thought I would check on that because sometimes the little initials are a bit different, and I don't want to assume, because that would be bad and wrong of me to assume anything. So what happens, the payoff for you, for your expert positioning, is that you start getting asked to, maybe speak, to do keynotes, to be interviewed. You don't have to fight. You don't have to fight so hard amongst the industry to be able to be seen, right? As somebody who does know their stuff, or maybe you get asked for an expert comment. That's all great, right? From a PR, a typical traditional public relations perspective, expert positioning is fabulous, right? It's great, but it's probably not actually going to make you money. Okay, so getting getting PR exposure, and you guys have seen me, like I've done this. I've done television, I've been in newspapers, I've been in magazines, I get asked all the time in different websites for expert comments. I've been on podcasts, on radio, like done the whole gamut, the whole kit and caboodle. There's there's been huge things that we've done in terms of, or I've done in terms of exposure. But actually, it doesn't necessarily equate to, dollars in the bank, right? I know people who have had massive PR, traditional media exposure, and they're broke, right? They've paid money to their publicists to get this positioning. It doesn't necessarily translate into sales. And part of that is because a lot of these publications have got massive audiences and aren't necessarily talking into directly your niche, right? So PR's awesome and PR is great, but it's not actually going to give you necessarily the payoff or the expert positioning that you might feel like you actually need. Oh, South Australia, Leanne. Nice. I grew up in SA. I love South Australia. So one of the things that we want to be thinking about is that you've got a couple of ways of being able to grow your positioning, grow your notoriety, and grow your ability to be seen by a wider market. And PR is one way. And to me, it's the slow way. It's a bit like brand awareness. It's a bit like Coca-Cola going and buying advertising space on the big billboards on the freeways. Right? We don't know how many people will actually go and buy a Coke because they saw a billboard and they've got like two young people frolicking on a beach drinking a Coke, right? We just don't know. And I suppose their thing there is that this is what a lot of PR stuff does. It is about positioning, but it doesn't really have a direct payoff. So and it's expensive, right? To hire a PR person, it's an expensive endeavor, or it can be an expensive endeavor. Robin, my connection is crappy. Oh, that's because you're at like the Grand Canyon enjoying all of the amazingness that is Utah and the Canyon. We were there a few years ago. It's absolutely beautiful. Good morning, Georgina. Please concentrate on your driving. Good morning, Leanne. So I guess what we want to be thinking about is like, yeah, we've got that option. If you're not bothered initially about getting a return on investment or a fast return on investment, by all means, go and do that. But here's the other thing. Your publicist or your PR consultant, or even at the publications that you're submitting things to, if you're doing it on your own, they want to know that you are going to be able to deliver on what you're selling to them, like what you're pitching to them. So they're still going to want to see why you are an expert in what it is that you do. Okay, so this can be in the form of your social media presence. They can look at your blogs, they can look at your website, they can look at your social media profiles and the content that you've been putting up. So even if you're going to go down this PR track, and I spoke to my PR guy about this a couple of years ago, he's like, all right, well, where have you been? What credibility have you got? And the fact that when I approached him, I'd already written Visible. And then I was introduced to him, actually. I'd already written Visible. And then I don't know why I keep saying we, it's really annoying. When I wrote Into the Spotlight, it meant that it was easier for him. He actually said, well, you know, these people have already heard from you. They know you've got already the social media profile and presence. So, you know, it's a no-brainer. We can see you as an expert. But you don't have to write a book in order for that to happen. Okay, so what I thought I would talk with you about today is how you can really consistently build consistent expert positioning online. Now, the thing we need to remember first and foremost is that it's like a snowball, right? So you know with a snowball, it starts small, and then when you push it down the hill, assuming it's got a nice gradient, in an ideal world, right? And for this metaphor, we're going to imagine that everything works perfectly and there's no like roads in the way or people in the way, and no one picks up your snowball and pegs it at somebody else across the way. So the way that your positioning will work is it'll start small, and then as every time you build, every time you add another post, every time you add another article, every time you put out another program, every time you show up, what happens is that this snowball builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and it gathers momentum as you're going. So the key here is really about the first key, the first law, the first secret, like whatever you want to call it, is making sure that you're able to articulate that you know your stuff, right? I know that this sounds pretty obvious, but the first thing is making sure that you know your stuff. And so many people will say to me, oh, but, you know, I feel like I need another qualification, or I need another degree, or I need another certification, or I have to go and do this thing. Stop it. You know enough right now for you to start to add value to the world, for you to start sharing your wisdom, your wit, your personality, your knowledge, your hints, your tips, your advice. You know more than enough right now to be able to get out there and start doing this. All right. The key in this particular point, like, so the first point is about knowing your stuff. With this one, it's about going, all right, well, what can I communicate with certainty? What do I know to be true? Because we're talking about building the snowball of positioning, and you'll also be building the snowball of confidence at the same time, actually. So work out what are the things that you know for absolute certain, that you could almost put your hand on your heart, other hand on the Bible, in a court of law, and you're like, I know this to be true, right? 100%. And it might be that I know for certain that this couch is in this office and it looks great sitting in front of my beach wall, for argument's sake. Like, I know that to be true because it's right there. It's a fact. So what do you know to be true and for certain? The next thing when it comes to you building your consistent positioning, if we're looking at one key piece of content, the thing that I would suggest that you do is actually sit down. So you think of a topic that you can talk about for absolute certain. And then you're going to go, all right, well, what are 5 key points that you can use to talk about? So for me, it might be about, let's pretend I'm doing something else that has nothing to do with this business. So let's say I was teaching roller skating, which incidentally I do. So I can tick off that first point, which is about know your stuff, right? So roller skating, I know all the ins and outs, not all of them. I know many, many ins and outs about roller skating. I know all of the key parts. So if I think about the 5 key points to skating, the first key point will be make sure that you've got skates that fit you. It's always a good thing. The second thing is you've got to know how to get down and how to get back up again, right? So actually the second thing might be about equipment, right? So the second thing's about equipment. The third thing is about knowing how to fall over safely. Now in what I do, it's roller derby. So we're all padded up, right? But I teach people how to skate right from before we even start doing anything to do with roller derby. So you've got to have all your safety equipment, but you've got to know how to fall over. And a really safe way to fall over is falling forward on your knees or on your knees and elbows because they're all padded over, making sure that you've got little monkey hands so that roller skates behind you don't come rolling over and break your fingers. Yeah, sounds a bit scary, but you'd be surprised at how many people fall backwards. Maybe you wouldn't be surprised at that. So you've got the make sure you've got skates that fit, make sure you've got your equipment, make sure you know how to fall. Then we're going to learn how to start to move forward and some movements in your body. And then you need to know how to stop. Know how to go, know how to stop, know how to fall. It's like roller skating 101. Yeah, so they might be the 5 key points that I want to talk about. Then what we want to share with people is what they need to do in order to move through each of those 5 steps. So you'll start to break each of these 5 steps down, right? That's the third part. The fourth, there's many steps in this. The fourth step for you today is to go, okay, well, how is following these 5 steps actually helpful to your audience? What is the benefit to them? Now, if we use the roller skating example, if you go through those 5 steps, first and foremost, it's so much better than you just, whipping on a bunch of skates and trying to go and then falling over and hurting yourself or falling backwards or not knowing how to stop or anything like that. So the benefit is that you get better faster, you are less likely to create an injury, and you're going to have so much more fun, right? So that's the payoff. Like how does somebody following your 5 steps, how do they benefit? So what we want to think about with the benefits is what's in it for them. More fun, less injury, which is going to lead to more fun, right? In the roller skating example. And the 5th and final thing that you need to do is you need to then get out there and start communicating this with certainty. So this can be about, like what I said before, is like you want to pick a topic that you know for certain that you can deliver and that you can talk about. Pull out the 5 key points that you're going to share with your audience. Then what you want to do is make sure that you're able to talk them through moving forward those 5 points so that they can achieve their goal, right? Every single person who listens to you, who buys from you, who absorbs your stuff, who listens, who reads, who consumes what it is that you're putting out there, they need to know how all of this stuff is going to help them get their goal. So with this particular coffee run, if we think about it, your goal, I imagine, is creating more money, which is going to give you more freedom, which is going to give you the freedom of choice to work where you want, doing what you want, how you want, with people you want, in a way that you love to do it, right? That's always the thing that all of my stuff always ties back to, is you doing the shit that lights you up. Because life is too short to not be doing that, and business is too fucking hard to not be doing stuff that you like, unless you're completely outsourcing everything to everybody, and that's a completely different ball game, and therefore you're probably never going to work with me. So that's that, right? How is this actually going to help them? How is this going to benefit them? How is it going to help them get that goal that they really, really want? You need to be able to communicate that. with roller skating, it's about getting fit. It's about, having something that's all about themselves that they can have fun with and play with and is just their own time. It's a form of self-care. It's also a great form of competition for those of you who are competitive. Are you sold on roller skating yet? Oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever. So, and then the final thing is getting out there and speaking about this with confidence and certainty. So if you think about it, if you could imagine yourself for a second putting out a piece of content maybe once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, 5 times a week, 7 times a week, however many times a week, that was able to talk in this kind of way, right, that was able to address these key points. How much faster do you think you're going to be able to build your positioning when you're talking with certainty, when you're offering hints and tips and advice, and you're able to solve people's problems when they come through? People are going to start to look at you as someone who knows what they're talking about, right? You're talking with certainty, right? You're able to articulate it very clearly because you've mapped it out and you've got a framework, and it's like, well, I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've done it, or my clients have done it, or, we've both done it. It's really awesome, Rebecca. It is really cool. I'm glad it sounds like that. Thank you for letting me know. I wished that I had the confidence and the certainty. I wish I knew how to create confidence and certainty back when I started, because I really felt like I was just making everything up. And, whilst I knew it worked because it was working for me, but I didn't think about strategically, architecting. Is that the right word? Planning out, really going, okay, well, this is what I want. And I know that this is one of the keys to building positioning. So anyone who, hey Zana, how are you? Anyone who is really wanting to stand out, if you think about the other people in your industry and, you think about how they are talking about this kind of stuff and maybe they're not doing it in the same way that you do, you can talk about that as well. You can say, I love, for example, I love Gary Vaynerchuk. I think he's amazing. I think he's awesome. However, I also disagree that some of the strategies that he uses and some of the strategies that he implements are not necessarily viable for many people. So many people are incredibly time poor. We don't have the time to be direct messaging people and being on every single media platform and, being everywhere all day, every day. Part of his philosophy is at 11 o'clock at night, he's talking about replying to messages or direct messaging people to try and build collaborations and this, that, and the other. And it works, right? We've seen it work. At 11 o'clock at night, I hope I'm freaking snoring, like not literally snoring, and I want to be asleep. I don't want to be messaging people. Like that's just too, for me, that's too hustly. So there's, I'm absolutely all for the stuff that he does. He speaks with certainty. He speaks with volition. He has got 1,000,000,001 examples, right? That guy never stops, Rebecca. Exactly. I'm like, I've got other shit to do. Like I've got skating or I've got my kids or I've got my husband or I've got whatever. Totally boundaries, Anna. And it works for him and it's freaking awesome. And I love his energy and his passion and the sheer volume of people that he's been able to inspire and motivate is bloody amazing. But to me, that's not the way that I want to do it. Right? It's not the way that I want to coach. It's not the way that I want to build my business. It's not the way that I want to make sales. And I also don't want to have like a team of 5,000 people going out and doing all of the things. I don't want to be a people manager. So, that's great for him over there. But for me, the way that I want to do it is, you hear me talk about it all the time. Absolutely boundaries. Absolutely knowing what you want, how you want to do it, what your not negotiables are, and that's that. I also do believe that it's important for you to try different things, right? And yeah, for Zana, she said that's burnout city long-term personally. And for me, I've been that person that's been go, 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 go. I have done that and it worked. and I got epic and amazing results. But I'm like, these days, I'm like, fuck that shit. I don't, that's not how I personally want to do it. And so I look at, all right, well, based on the things that I'm talking about, and when I'm building my positioning, and when I'm sharing my philosophies, my insights, my results, my examples, and therefore the results also of my clients, because this isn't just theory, right? You're not still in business a decade later from just, more than a decade later, from just theory, right? So I've done it both ways. And I tell you what, the way that I do things for me is much nicer. and there's much less coffee consumed. My adrenal glands are incredibly grateful. My naturopath is very grateful that I'm not killing my adrenals, and like my cortisol levels have, settled the fuck down. But just because my way of doing this is the way that I do this doesn't mean that that's also going to work for everyone. So for me, when we think about positioning, you want to be really clear on what your stance is. You've got to know your stuff. You've got to find ways of being able to help and move your audience through, and make sure that you're able to articulate all of this stuff with confidence and with certainty. So that is our coffee run for today. Let me know if you've got any questions. Zana says, all praise the adrenal gods. I know. Oh my God, my poor little adrenals. I imagine them like these poor little orphans that were completely, or maybe not little orphans, but people like little sad little things that were completely neglected and mishandled and ignored, and it's like a tantruming child, right? You can only ignore a tantruming child for so long before you go like, okay, this is ridiculous. That's what I imagine my poor little adrenal glands, just like these little things going, stop. And I'm like, no, fuck you, keep working. Stop. No, keep working. And they're like, we're not working anymore. So it was really, it was a very expensive lesson from an energy perspective, from a mindset perspective, from a supplement perspective. But I tell you what, like, I don't ever want to go down that track ever again. It was just, freaking awful. So, that's my take on it. But not everybody who hustles ends up with adrenal fatigue. Let's be clear. Not everybody who hustles ends up burnt out. It does depend on what's going on in your life, what's going on in your world, what support teams you've got in place, how you're supplementing, and how you're taking care of yourself. But it is absolutely, boundaries is first and foremost really important. Alrighty. Now, of course, if you follow this, you are going to build your positioning. You are going to be seen as an expert in what you do, because the content you're creating is so freaking specific to what it is that you're doing, how it is that you're doing it, and who you're doing it for. So follow these and you'll absolutely get there. If you want more help, I am going to unashamedly remind you that we've got Visible, the immersive experience, happening towards the end of this month. And I've put a little bit of a comment in the comments box. You can see it. If you're listening to audio, you will also see it in your show notes. And the big thing here to me is that what people really need is a way of being able to cut through the noise. It is a way of being able to build and grow your positioning from all of this amazing stuff that you've got going on in your head. But most people need a framework, they need a plan, and then they need their asses kicked in order to be able to actually get that implemented. So that's why we've put the Visible, not we, for goodness sakes, why I have put together the Visible immersive experience for you. So you get the training and the frameworks and the pulling this awesome stuff out of your head, and then you've got the accountability to implement. So you can see the link in there. If you've got any questions about anything, make sure you reach out and let me know. Meanwhile, get out there and go and implement this stuff. I know you'll get results from it, and I can't wait to hear how you go with this. So get yourself out there, go help some people, have a whole ton of fun doing it. And most of all, remember, the world is ready for your brand of awesome. Have a kick-ass day. Mwah. I will see you tomorrow with new hair. Maybe I won't see you tomorrow. Let's see what happens. See you later, everyone. Have a great day.